Cups up, toast to all of our good morning crew, morning word crew. Hats off and the blessings upon our school teachers, our first responders, and our military. God bless y'all. And to all the people that are watching from different areas in the world, different countries. Good Lord, I'm so blessed and so grateful to see some of the places that you people are tuning in from. And I want to encourage our regular crew here to reach out to those of you, that are tuning in from various places around the country, especially for the first time that you recognize, and welcome them to the Morning Word crew and pray for God's blessings on them. If you have your Bible, we're going to be in Psalm 11. Psalm 11. The morning word is bad advice from good people. Bad advice from good people. So let's read the word. This is David writing a psalm, and he's in some sort of dilemma where his life is in danger, as many of his psalms allude to and are written out of that context. And so David is receiving counsel. Now, the Bible tells us that there is safety in a multitude of counselors. But the question is can we discern, or should we discern, when we might be getting bad advice from good people? Let's look at this. Verse 1, in the Lord I put my trust. How can you say to my soul, flee as a bird to your mountain? For look, the wicked bend their bow. They make ready their arrow on the string, that they may shoot secretly at the upright in heart. If the foundations are destroyed, what can the righteous do? The Lord is in his holy temple. The Lord's throne is in heaven. His eyes behold, his eyelids test the sons of men. The Lord tests the righteous, but the wicked and the one who loves violence, his soul hates. Upon the wicked he will rain coals. Fire and brimstone and a burning wind shall be the portion of their cup. For the Lord is righteous, he loves righteousness, and his countenance beholds the upright. David is being pursued. David is under a threat, not only of a threat to his throne, but a threat to his life. And David had counselors, multitudes of them. And they are counseling him. And he makes a declaration in the very beginning. In the Lord, I put my trust. Then he asks a question to the ones that are advising him to flee. They are advising him to run. How can you say to my soul, flee as a bird to your mountain? David discerns that his counselors, his good people, are counseling him to run from a situation due to fear for his life. Fear to his throne, fear to his life, fear in general. Probably because they love him, and he's the king, and they reverence him, they love him, they respect him, and they are telling him what they think he should do to preserve his life. Now, you have to think about this. They're telling him this because they love him and they don't want to lose him. All right. So they're counseling him from they're good people, and they have a good premise. They have a vested interest in David living. That's what they're saying. All right. But they're counseling him to run for his life. Why? Because they want him to live. Now, David discerns that their counsel that they are giving to him is out of their fear for his life. And they're counseling him to do something out of their fear. All right. And it's projecting over onto David, and David is interpreting, well, if I do this, then I will be acting in fear. Your fear for me is giving me a counsel that's going to cause me to respond out of fear. And he begins by saying, in the Lord, I put my trust. Now they go down and they explain why they're doing this. There are men who secretly want to kill you. Verse 2. Verse 3, if the foundations are destroyed, what can the righteous do? That could be twofold. If this was a time before David became king, it could mean that Saul has lost control of his people and the kingdom. And if the kingdom crumbles, then what hope does David have? But I think it's more in the line of David is already on the throne. They are looking at David as being the foundation for the kingdom. And if he is destroyed, what would David's followers do? That's what it means. What can the righteous do? What would David's followers do? If God's appointed man dies, what are God's people going to do? That's how I'm interpreting the scripture here. So then David turns around and he reminds himself and he advises his people, the Lord is in his holy temple. The Lord's throne is in heaven. In other words, David is not denying the fact that there are men that are out to kill him, some of them secretly. He's not denying the fact that he's the king and it's important that he lives. But here's what he's saying. You know what? There's some dangerous things out there that's trying to kill me, dangerous people, but God's on the throne. In other words, nothing that's going on around here has changed the fact that God is on the throne. In other words, God is in control. And he's already stated in verse 1, in the Lord I put my trust. My confidence is in an enthroned God who has all wisdom, all knowledge, and all power. David's confidence is that God is still on the throne, that he possesses all wisdom, all power, and all knowledge. Then he says, his eyes behold. In other words, there's nothing going on that God doesn't see, and there's no one secretly plotting to kill David or to take his life or to take his throne that God is not aware of. He says his eyes behold. But look at this. His eyelids test the Son of Men. The Lord tests the righteous. So here's what David is telling his good people that's giving him bad advice. Guys, listen. You're giving me advice out of fear because you want me to stay alive. I appreciate that. But you're advising me to run. Now here's the deal, he's saying. What's happening here is a test. My wife says it all the time. It's a test. When something happens, and I'm not talking about real bad happens because we haven't had anything real bad happen to us. We've been so super blessed, but it's a test. The guy that was supposed to fix the fireplace jacked it up. It's a test, man. It's costing me thousands of dollars. It's a test. So David's saying, you guys are wanting me to run from a test. God's testing me. And what is the test? Will David trust God? Will David put his confidence in God? Or will David react in fear by the counsel of good people whose vested interest is in his life? David says, it's a test. We don't run from test. We stand in test. We stand by faith. Our faith is being tested. What is our faith? Simply our trust in God. It's being tested. Our faith in God is being tested. Now he goes on and says, God hates the violent and he has a reward for them in the end. In other words, David says, I don't have to take vengeance for myself. I don't have to try to find everyone who's trying to kill me and kill them first. David is saying God knows who they are. God knows where they are. And God has a reward for them. His reward is an eternal damnation. Their reward will be fire, brimstone, burning wind. That shall be the portion of their cup. That means their inheritance in eternity. The portion of their cup is their inheritance in eternity. David said, listen, it doesn't matter what they got going on. If they don't turn their heart and faith towards God, they're going to run face first into him in eternity, and his reward for all that they've done in wickedness, even to include trying to plot and or maybe even carrying out the plan to kill me. David is saying, my confidence is that God has got this handled. He says, for the Lord is righteous, verse 7. He loves righteousness, and his countenance beholds the upright. So it says that he loves the righteous, yet he's putting the righteous to a test. And he's seeing if we will stand by faith and trust him and his covenant love. He loves righteousness. He said, I'm just going to keep living rightly for God. I'm going to stay right where I am. I'm not going to run. This is a test. I'm not going to run from wicked people. God's got wicked people handled. I'm going to stand and live my life the way I'm supposed to live it. I'm going to honor God with my life, and I'm going to let the rough end drag. That's Randy's paraphrase down at the end. His countenance beholds the upright. God's going to shower me with favor. God's got me blessed to be stressed. That's Randy's paraphrase. So now let me. You say, Pastor Randy, when are we supposed to run, and when are we not supposed to run? Well, that comes from having an intimate relationship with God. There's times that you need to run, get out of town. Jesus told the disciples, when they pursue you in this city, go to the next city. All right? Shake the dust off your feet and go to the next city. But how do you know when it's time to make your stand? When do you know that it's a test that you're supposed to stand in? Well, that comes from your relationship with the Lord. That comes from some level of discernment. In other words, your life is not supposed to be governed solely by the counsel of people, because there are good people who will give you bad advice, and oftentimes that advice is out of their own selfish motives. These guys were good people. They loved David, but their selfish motive was for David to stay alive, because they couldn't picture their life without David. They couldn't picture the kingdom without David. So they told David, run. David said, no, I'm not. This is not the time for me to run. This is the time for me to make a stand. It's a test. I'm going to trust God. Now, I want to break that down just for about 2 minutes here. About 2 minutes. And help you to understand something. There is a pandemic in the earth. I said in the earth. So if you're going to run, where are you going? Russia, they got it there. China, it started there. India, it's there. South America, it's there. Dubose, Wyoming, where I'd like to go, where the few cowboys are and nobody mess with you, it's still there. Can't run from a virus. Can't hide from a virus. I looked up the statistics this morning. Now, guys, listen to me. I got good friends that are struggling from the coronavirus, COVID-19 right now. Struggling. Ventilators, ICU, pneumonia. Pastor Jeff, Miss Sheila, been very sick with pneumonia. I see people like Francis Sartain, who's old. My mom, Francis Sartain, who's old and 80-something years old, had the coronavirus, didn't even know it, tested positive for the antibodies. I got a guy that's younger than me that's in the hospital, thinks he might die. I am not trying to downplay the seriousness that the virus has about it, and that it can and does kill people. That's a given. Here's what I looked up this morning. To date, as of the 21st of January, 429,000 deaths by coronavirus. Now, that's every kind of person dying in the world, and if they had coronavirus and had a stroke, they're listing it as a coronavirus death. All right. So if you got COVID, they're writing cause of death is COVID. You could have been run over by a bush hog, and they tested you positive for corona. You died from corona. Okay, so these numbers are skewed. 429,000 people in the United States of America have died as of January the 21st, and the death certificate listed coronavirus as the cause. Yesterday, I looked on my news feed, and 6 million people have been added to the food stamp list because of coronavirus. In other words, we shut the country down, and we put 6 million people into poverty to the point that they're having to have government subsistence to purchase food. 6 million. There are things that are worse than death. I may die tomorrow from coronavirus. It may kill me. And people say, hey, Pastor Andy, you telling everybody don't run from coronavirus. It killed him. See there? I'm telling you, it can kill me. It can kill anybody. But it ain't going anywhere. But I think we ought to be like David. And I ain't going anywhere because God ain't going anywhere. All right? I'm not running. I'm not going to unemploy myself. I'm not going to forbid people to come to church. I'm not going to cancel meetings. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go to the store if I want to go to the store. If there's a store open, I'm going to go to the mall if I need to go to the mall. I'm going to go on vacation if I want to go on vacation. I'm going to go to the grocery store. And I'm going to live my life today just like I was living it before we even knew what coronavirus was, outside of the fact that I'm going to wash my hands and be more diligent about coughing into my elbow. I mean, outside of that, there ain't nothing else I'm going to do. I don't drink after people, not supposed to. Don't eat after people, not supposed to. Not getting this close to people to talk to them, you know. I don't like that anyway. I like, keep my distance. I ain't kissing nobody but my wife and my kids. I ain't sleeping with nobody but my wife and my kids. I ain't bathing with nobody but my wife and my kids. What y'all want me to do? Wrap a turban around my mouth, lock myself in my house, and everybody else do that? And this whole country go to hell in a handbasket broke? There are good people that's giving bad advice because they're afraid. They're afraid for you and they're afraid for me. And that's a gracious, honorable thing. And I appreciate that. My children said, Daddy, don't do that. Papa, don't do that. You might get coronavirus. Listen, I appreciate that. But to me, I'm speaking for me, this is a test. This is a test. Am I going to trust and believe God? And I'm going to respect, if I go in a business and they want me to wear a mask, I'm going to wear a mask. And if I'm around you and you want me to wear a mask, I'm going to wear a mask to respect you and to honor you. But when I'm out on my own, doing my own thing, I'm not, and I'm going to live my life. It's a test to see if I trust God, to see if I believe that God's still on the throne, that God sees and that God knows. Did anybody believe that the corona? Matter of fact, I read over to the end of the book, Revelation chapter 6. About a third of the earth is going to die from plagues, violence, and war in the last days. A third of the earth. Now, you're not going to change that. I'm not going to change that. Do anything you want to do. That's not going to change. A third of the earth is going to die from plagues, diseases, and warfare. A third in a short time. You're not going to stop that. So I just want people to understand that the world is looking at Christians. The lost world is looking at Christians during this pandemic. And if we're holed up inside our houses like Osama bin Laden running from SEAL Team 6, what kind of message is that sending to the rest of the world? I mean, how different is my life from the rest of the world? How is my faith being exhibited? I'm just throwing some things out there. Bad advice from good people. Hope you find something to think about this morning. We'll see y'all tomorrow. Good Lord willing. Tomorrow's Friday. Ain't that right, Brandy? I'll see y'all tomorrow. Good Lord willing, and the saints don't rise. Peace out.